Yes, I can. I'm Clover Anne. Written by Cheryl Cunningham and Judith Cunningham. Illustrated by VanMatre.
Clover Anne looked out her window and watched the rain. She was not happy.
I want to play on my brand new playground,
she said.
It has a slide that goes around and around, 10 bars that climb up and down, swings that go as high as the sky, and a tunnel that is shaped like a dragonfly.
I know, my dear, said her mother, but remember what happens to the creek when it rains?
Clover Anne remembered. That is why she was so glum. Something was wrong with the creek and something must be done. Before the playground, the little creek next to the yard was barely a trickle, even when it rained. Before the playground, the water flowed right where it was supposed to go. But something happened when the workers came to build her playground. The big trucks drove all over the yard and right through the creek. And then nothing was the same. Nothing. Now when it rains, the creek floods and the yard becomes a giant lake with a playground right in the middle.
What good is a playground that has a slide that goes around and around, 10 bars to climb up and down, swings that go as high as the sky, and a tunnel that is shaped like a dragonfly, if it's surrounded by water?
Clover Anne complained.
There must be a way to make the water stay in the creek. Mom,
Moaned Clover Anne.
my playground is great when it's not in a lake, but our creek is a problem. It needs to be fixed.
Mom set her things aside and looked at Clover Anne.
You are clever, Clover Anne. I know you can figure out what to do.
Yes, I can. I'm Clover Anne.
So Clover Anne put on her pink striped raincoat with matching pink hat and purple boots, and outside she went. She stood in the rain, stared at the creek, and thought. Just when her feet were about to sink into the mud, she suddenly remembered another time when she was in the same conundrum. It was last summer at the beach when Clover Anne and her family built a huge sandcastle. She imagined she was a beautiful princess and the castle was her grand home. But when the ocean waves crashed onto shore and into her castle, it was nearly flooded. She desperately needed to save her castle. She had to keep the water out.
Hey,
Thought Clover Anne excitedly.
that's what I want to do. Keep the water out of the yard.
She saved her castle that day by using lots of sand to make the walls around the castle higher.
That was a good idea.
She remembered.
It was fun. I made the walls higher. That made the water flow where I wanted it to go. I bet I can do that in my yard.
Clover Anne ran inside.
Mom, may I borrow some of your paper and a lavender marker? And may I invite 5 friends over tomorrow?
Yes, and yes.
Laughed Mom.
What are you planning?
We're gonna fix that creek.
Exclaimed Clover Anne.
Thanks, Mom.
The next day, Clover Anne's friends came over.
Here's what I think.
She explained to them.
I think the big truck smashed the side of the creek. Now the water runs into the yard and it crashes onto the playground. Look,
She said, pointing to her drawing.
we need to make the side of the creek higher, just like I did with my sandcastle last summer. This will make the water flow where we want it to go.
Clover Anne and her friends went outside and hauled and rolled and pushed and carried rocks and sticks and leaves. The sides of the creek grew higher and higher. They even used lots of gooey, sticky mud to make sure everything stayed in place. They worked very, very hard. And when they were finished, it looked magnificent.
Good work, team.
Praised Clover Anne.
Now all we need is rain.
Very soon it did rain. Clover Anne nervously looked out the window and watched the rain. She watched the creek. She watched the yard. She watched her playground with a slide that goes around and around, 10 bars to climb up and down, swings that go as high as the sky, and a tunnel that is shaped like a dragonfly. Then something very magical happened. The water stayed in the creek. The creek flowed right where it was supposed to go. The yard did not turn into a lake. The playground was safe.
Mom!
Yelled Clover Anne.
It worked!
Oh, my clever Clover Anne.
Mom said when she saw what Clover Anne had accomplished.
You solved your problem just like an engineer.
An engineer?
Asked Clover Anne.
What's an engineer?
Engineers dream, imagine, design, and create.
explained Mom.
That's what makes their job so great. They figure out ways to make a creek go straight so it doesn't turn into a giant lake.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
said Clover Anne, getting very excited.
it was so much fun. I can do all those things. I want to be one.
Delighted and excited as her dog with a bow, she grabbed her boa and prepared for a show.
Oh, I can dream, imagine, design and create, and I know how to do something great. Oh, I can dream, imagine, design and create, and I know how to do something great. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. I'm Clover Anne. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, yes, I can. I'm Clover Anne.
Then dancing and singing in front of the mirror, she belted out the finale of her premiere.
This announcement is for the whole world to hear. I'm going to be an